They mocked her in the briefing room until the enemy repeated her exact strategy. In a room full of high-ranking men, she was the youngest, the quietest, and the easiest to ignore. They rolled their eyes when she spoke up until the mission went sideways. Enemy movement wasn't where they expected. Traps sprung early. Confusion spread. That's when she opened her tablet and said, "I warned you." Her maps, her analysis, her routes, they were the only plan left standing. And the team that mocked her? They followed her voice over comms like it was gospel. The rookie they once dismissed became the compass they couldn't live without. From which corner of the globe are you watching this video today? If you value stories about intelligence, persistence, and proving yourself when everything is on the line, consider subscribing for more content that celebrates the power of preparation and the courage to speak truth to authority. The fluorescent lights of the Tactical Operations Center at Camp Valor cast harsh shadows across topographical maps and satellite imagery as Second Lieutenant Rachel Kim entered the briefing room at 0630 hours. The morning planning session's tense atmosphere filled the space where senior officers and experienced non-commissioned officers gathered around the central planning table, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of digital displays and tactical computers. Kim moved with measured steps toward an empty chair at the far end of the table, carrying her tablet and detailed analysis folders, knowing that her presence would likely be tolerated rather than welcomed by the veteran operators who dominated these sessions. "Intelligence Update," announced Colonel James Morrison, his voice carrying the authority of 25 years of combat operations across multiple theaters. His attention turned to the assembled officers as he began reviewing overnight developments that would influence the day's mission planning. Major Patricia Wells, the battalion intelligence officer, stood to present the standard briefing format that had guided their operations for the past 6 months. Enemy activity in Sector 7 Alpha remains consistent with previous patterns, she began, indicating positions on the large wall display. Standard insurgent harassment tactics, improvised explosive device placements along primary routes, and small unit actions targeting isolated checkpoints. Lieutenant Kim studied the presentation while cross-referencing her own analysis on her tablet, noting discrepancies between the official assessment and the patterns she had identified through weeks of detailed study. Her independent research had revealed subtle changes in enemy behavior that suggested evolution in their tactical approach, but her attempts to share these observations had been consistently dismissed. "Questions or additional input?" Colonel Morrison asked, scanning the room with the practiced efficiency of someone managing complex operations under time pressure. Kim hesitated, knowing that her previous contributions had been met with polite dismissal at best and open skepticism at worst. Her age, rank, and relative inexperience made her insights easy to disregard among officers who measured credibility by years of service rather than quality of analysis. "Sir," she said quietly, raising her hand slightly, "I've identified some concerning patterns in the intelligence data that might suggest changes in enemy tactical approaches." Major Wells turned toward Kim with an expression that mixed patience with barely concealed irritation. "Lieutenant, we've reviewed all available intelligence thoroughly. The enemy's patterns remain consistent with established behavior. With respect, ma'am, I've noticed subtle shifts in timing, positioning, and target selection that might indicate they're adapting their methods." Kim opened her tablet, displaying detailed charts and analysis that she had prepared during countless late-night study sessions. The patterns suggest possible coordination between previously independent cells. Captain David Rodriguez, the operations officer, exchanged glances with other senior personnel before responding. "Lieutenant Kim, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but pattern analysis requires experience interpreting battlefield intelligence. The assessments we're using have been validated by years of operational success." The dismissal was polite but firm, reflecting the institutional assumption that junior officers lack the experience necessary to contribute meaningful insights to tactical planning. Kim felt the familiar combination of frustration and determination that had driven her to pursue independent analysis despite official disinterest. "Understood, sir," she replied, closing her tablet while mentally noting that her concerns had once again been documented but ignored. Colonel Morrison continued with the briefing, outlining the day's mission objectives and tactical approach. Alpha Company will conduct standard patrol operations along Route Falcon, with particular attention to known IED placement locations. Bravo Company will establish overwatch positions at grid coordinates we've used successfully for the past month. Kim listened to the operational plan while reviewing her analysis, recognizing that the proposed approach followed predictable patterns that her research suggested the enemy had learned to exploit. Her independent study had revealed that insurgent forces were demonstrating increasing sophistication in anticipating coalition tactics and developing countermeasures. Lieutenant Kim, Major Wells addressed her directly as the briefing concluded. Since you seem to have additional insights, perhaps you could prepare a supplementary analysis for review by the intelligence section. The assignment was clearly intended to redirect Kim's energy into bureaucratic channels where her unconventional observations could be safely ignored. But Kim recognized the opportunity to document her concerns in official format that might eventually reach decision-makers who could appreciate their significance. Yes, ma'am. I'll have a comprehensive assessment ready for review by this afternoon. As the senior officers departed for their respective units, Kim remained in the briefing room, spreading her materials across the planning table to organize the detailed analysis that had consumed her attention for weeks. Her research combined traditional intelligence sources with open-source information, pattern recognition software, and innovative analytical techniques that she had developed during her intelligence training. Staff Sergeant Michael Chun, one of the few personnel who had shown interest in her work, approached as she arranged her documentation. Kim, you really think they're missing something significant? Kim looked up from her analysis, appreciating Chin's willingness to consider possibilities that others dismissed. Sergeant, I think the enemy is learning our patterns faster than we're adapting our approach. The intelligence suggests they're becoming more sophisticated in their tactical thinking. What kind of sophistication are you talking about? Coordinated timing across multiple operational areas, adaptive targeting based on our response patterns, and what appears to be systematic intelligence collection about our standard procedures. Kim highlighted specific data points on her charts. They're not just reacting to our operations, they're anticipating them. Chen studied the information with the attention of someone who understood that battlefield intelligence could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Have you shared this with anyone else? I've tried, but the assessment doesn't fit established threat models. Senior leadership prefers analysis that confirms existing assumptions rather than challenging them. The conversation reflected broader institutional challenges in military intelligence, where innovative thinking often conflicted with established procedures and hierarchical decision-making. Kim's analysis represented exactly the kind of unconventional insight that could provide tactical advantages, but her junior status made it easy for senior officers to dismiss her contributions. Maybe you should document everything and route it through official channels, Chin suggested. Even if they ignore it initially, having it on record might matter later. Kim nodded, understanding that persistence and documentation were often more important than immediate acceptance in military bureaucracy. I'm preparing a comprehensive assessment that addresses all the patterns I've identified. Whether anyone listens is beyond my control. The next several hours passed quickly as Kim compiled her research into a formal intelligence assessment that followed standard military format while presenting her unconventional conclusions. Her analysis challenged fundamental assumptions about enemy capabilities and tactical evolution, suggesting that coalition forces were facing a more sophisticated threat than previously recognized. Enemy Tactical Adaptation Assessment. She titled the document, knowing that the bland designation might help it receive serious consideration despite its controversial conclusions. The report detailed specific patterns of enemy behavior that suggested coordinated planning and adaptive response capabilities. By late afternoon, Kim had completed a 20-page analysis supported by detailed charts, maps, and statistical correlations that painted a concerning picture of evolving enemy capabilities. Her assessment concluded that current coalition tactical approaches were becoming predictable and vulnerable to exploitation by increasingly sophisticated adversaries. Lieutenant Kim, Major Wells called as Kim prepared to submit her assessment through official channels. I understand you've prepared additional analysis. I hope you realize that challenging established threat assessments requires substantial evidence. Yes, ma'am. I've documented everything thoroughly and followed standard analytical protocols. The evidence supports conclusions that might be uncomfortable, but I believe they're accurate. Major Wells accepted the document with obvious skepticism. I'll review this and forward it through appropriate channels. But I want you to understand that operational decisions are based on proven intelligence methods, not theoretical possibilities. The response was exactly what Kim had expected, polite acknowledgement coupled with clear indication that her analysis would be filed rather than seriously considered. But she had fulfilled her responsibility to document her concerns and alert leadership to potential threats, regardless of whether they chose to act on the information. 2 days later, Kim's assessment proved prophetic in the most dramatic way possible. Alpha Company's patrol along Route Falcon encountered coordinated attacks that demonstrated exactly the tactical sophistication she had predicted. The enemy had anticipated the standard patrol route, timing, and response procedures, creating a complex ambush that caught coalition forces completely off guard. All stations, Alpha Company is taking heavy contact at grid coordinates 41, RQM 678-345-2916. Came the urgent radio transmission that shattered the routine morning atmosphere in the Tactical Operations Center. Multiple improvised explosive devices, coordinated small arms fire from prepared positions, and what appears to be organized withdrawal routes. Colonel Morrison rushed to the communications console as reports poured in from the embattled unit. The attack was unfolding exactly as Kim's analysis had predicted: coordinated timing, adaptive targeting, and systematic exploitation of coalition tactical patterns. Enemy forces anticipated our route, timing, and response procedures, reported Captain Rodriguez over the radio. They're demonstrating tactical coordination we haven't seen before. This isn't opportunistic harassment. It's sophisticated operational planning. Kim watched the developing situation from her position at the intelligence workstation, feeling no satisfaction in being proven correct about threats that were now endangering soldiers' lives. Her analysis had predicted exactly this type of coordinated attack, but her warnings had been dismissed as inexperienced speculation. Lieutenant Kim, Colonel Morrison called across the operations center. Your recent assessment addressed enemy tactical adaptation. What did your analysis predict about this type of coordinated attack? The sudden attention from senior leadership carried undertones of both urgency and frustration. Kim's warnings had been ignored when they could have influenced tactical planning, but now they were desperately needed to understand the evolving situation. Sir, my analysis suggested that enemy forces had developed sophisticated intelligence about our operational patterns and were coordinating their activities across multiple cells, Kim replied, opening her tablet to access her detailed predictions. The attack patterns we're seeing were among the scenarios I identified as high probability. Major Wells, who had dismissed Kim's assessment just days earlier, now studied the developing situation with obvious concern. What did your analysis suggest about enemy capabilities and likely tactical evolution? Kim accessed her comprehensive threat assessment, displaying the charts and predictions that had been filed away as theoretical speculation. The analysis indicated that enemy forces were learning our response patterns faster than we were adapting our approach. I predicted coordinated attacks using exactly the methods we're observing. What specific countermeasures did your assessment recommend? Colonel Morrison asked, his tone reflecting the urgency of a commander seeking any advantage in a deteriorating tactical situation. Sir, the assessment recommended varying our patrol routes and timing, implementing adaptive response procedures, and developing intelligence collections specifically focused on enemy coordination capabilities. Kim highlighted specific recommendations from her analysis. The report also suggested that our standard tactical approaches were becoming predictable and vulnerable. The irony was lost on no one present. The analysis that had been dismissed as inexperienced speculation was now the only framework available for understanding the crisis unfolding before them. Kim's predictions had been accurate, but institutional resistance to unconventional thinking had prevented appropriate preparation. Alpha Company is requesting immediate support, came another urgent radio transmission. Enemy forces are withdrawing in coordinated fashion using routes they obviously prepared in advance. This level of tactical sophistication exceeds previous threat assessments. Colonel Morrison turned to Kim with the focused attention of a commander whose previous assumptions had been shattered by battlefield reality. Lieutenant, based on your analysis, What would you recommend for immediate tactical response? Kim felt the weight of responsibility as senior officers who had previously ignored her insights now depended on her unconventional thinking to address a crisis that conventional analysis had failed to anticipate. Sir, my assessment suggests the enemy is using our predictable response patterns against us. I recommend adaptive countermeasures that break our established tactical routines while implementing intelligence collection focused on enemy coordination methods. The next several hours tested both Kim's analytical capabilities and the willingness of senior leadership to implement unconventional tactics based on her insights. Her recommendations challenged standard operating procedures, but the crisis situation demanded innovative thinking that could address sophisticated enemy capabilities. Lieutenant Kim will coordinate adaptive response planning, Colonel Morrison announced, making a decision that would have been unthinkable under normal circumstances. Her analysis appears to be the most accurate assessment of enemy capabilities we have available. The assignment represented both vindication and enormous pressure. Kim's independent research had proven accurate, but now she needed to translate theoretical analysis into practical tactical solutions that could save lives and restore operational initiative. Yes, sir, Kim replied, understanding that this opportunity to influence operations carried the responsibility for outcomes that would affect soldiers in combat. I'll coordinate with all relevant sections to implement adaptive countermeasures. What followed was an intensive period of tactical innovation as Kim worked with experienced operators to develop responses that broke established patterns while maintaining operational effectiveness. Her theoretical insights needed to be combined with practical experience to create tactical solutions that could counter sophisticated enemy capabilities. Staff Sergeant Chun, who had been among the few to take Kim's analysis seriously, became her primary liaison with operational units. Kim, the ground commanders need specific recommendations they can implement immediately. What does your analysis suggest for immediate tactical adaptation? Kim consulted her comprehensive assessment while coordinating with multiple operational elements. The analysis indicates that enemy forces expect us to follow standard response patterns. We need to implement adaptive procedures that maintain our tactical advantages while becoming unpredictable in our operational approach. What specific changes are you recommending? Varied patrol routes and timing, adaptive communication procedures, and intelligence collection specifically designed to identify enemy coordination capabilities. Kim displayed her detailed recommendations on the tactical display system. We need to become as adaptive as the enemy has become sophisticated. The implementation of Kim's recommendations required convincing experienced operators to abandon proven methods in favor of innovative approaches that challenge their tactical assumptions. The crisis situation provided urgency that overcame institutional resistance to change. Alpha Company reports enemy contact has ceased. Came the radio update after several hours of implementing adaptive countermeasures. Modified tactical approach appears to have disrupted enemy planning and coordination. The immediate crisis had passed, but its implications would influence operations for months to come. Kim's analysis had proven accurate under the most demanding circumstances possible, validating her unconventional approach to intelligence assessment and tactical planning. Lieutenant Kim, Major Wells approached her during the post-incident analysis session. I owe you an apology. Your assessment was not only accurate, it was the only framework that predicted what actually happened. Kim appreciated the acknowledgement while understanding that institutional change would require more than one successful prediction. Ma'am, the important thing is that we learn from this experience and adapt our analytical approaches to address evolving threats. What do you recommend for improving our intelligence assessment procedures? Ma'am, we need to encourage innovative thinking and challenge established assumptions more systematically. The enemy is adapting faster than we are, and conventional analysis isn't keeping pace with tactical evolution. The conversation reflected growing recognition that military effectiveness required not just technological superiority or numerical advantages, but analytical capabilities that could anticipate and counter sophisticated enemy tactics. Kim's success demonstrated the value of unconventional thinking in addressing complex threats. Over the following weeks, Kim found herself increasingly involved in tactical planning and intelligence assessment as senior leadership recognized that her analytical methods provided insights that conventional approaches had missed. Her recommendations influenced operational procedures and intelligence collection priorities. "Kim, I want to discuss your career development," Colonel Morrison said during a private meeting in his office. "Your analytical capabilities have proven exceptionally valuable, but you're operating at levels typically associated with much more experienced intelligence officers." Kim considered the colonel's observation carefully. "Sir, I think the key is approaching intelligence analysis without preconceived limitations. When you're willing to challenge established assumptions, you can identify patterns that conventional thinking might miss. I'm recommending you for accelerated promotion to first lieutenant and assignment to advanced intelligence training. Your capabilities are too valuable to limit to standard junior officer assignments." The recommendation represented both recognition of her achievements and an opportunity for expanded responsibility, but Kim felt committed to ensuring that the lessons learned from her experience would benefit other intelligence analysts facing similar challenges. "Sir, I appreciate the opportunity, but I'd like to request assignment to develop improved analytical training programs. The methods that worked for me could benefit other analysts who might be struggling with conventional approaches." Colonel Morrison smiled at Kim's response. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes you valuable, Lieutenant. You understand that individual success means nothing if it doesn't contribute to broader institutional capability." The compromise solution involved Kim accepting expanded responsibilities that combined operational intelligence duties with development of enhanced analytical training programs. Her unconventional methods became the foundation for improved intelligence assessment procedures throughout the command. The fundamental principle, Kim explained to new intelligence analysts during training sessions, is that effective analysis requires challenging your own assumptions as rigorously as you challenge enemy capabilities. Conventional thinking produces conventional results, but sophisticated enemies require sophisticated analysis. Her training emphasized the critical thinking that had made her analysis so valuable during the crisis. Students learned to question established threat models, identify patterns that others might miss, and develop recommendations that addressed emerging rather than historical threats. "Remember," she continued during training sessions, "your mission isn't just to confirm what commanders expect to hear. It's to provide accurate assessments that enable effective decision-making, even when those assessments challenge comfortable assumptions." The program Kim developed became a model for intelligence training throughout the military. Her methods combined traditional analytical techniques with innovative approaches that encouraged creative thinking and pattern recognition beyond conventional parameters. Months later, as Kim prepared for her assignment to Advanced Intelligence School while maintaining her analytical training responsibilities, she reflected on how significantly her understanding of military service had evolved. The quiet lieutenant who had been ignored in briefing rooms had become a recognized expert whose methods were influencing how the military approached intelligence analysis. "You know," Staff Sergeant Chen observed during one of their regular coordination meetings, "you've demonstrated that effective intelligence analysis isn't about rank or experience. It's about thinking clearly and having the courage to challenge assumptions." Kim nodded, understanding that her experience represented broader principles about intellectual courage and professional excellence. "Sergeant, I think the key is remembering that accuracy matters more than conformity. When soldiers' lives depend on your analysis, being popular is less important than being right." The transformation of intelligence assessment procedures at Camp Valor became a model studied throughout military intelligence organizations worldwide. Kim's innovations in threat analysis and tactical prediction were incorporated into standard training programs at installations facing similar analytical challenges across multiple theaters of operation. What began as one junior officer's refusal to accept conventional wisdom has become a systematic approach to improving intelligence analysis, observed Brigadier General Patricia Foster during a comprehensive review of analytical training programs 6 months after Kim's breakthrough. Lieutenant Kim's methods have fundamentally changed how we approach threat assessment and tactical prediction. The ripple effects of Kim's innovations extended far beyond Camp Valor. Military intelligence schools incorporated her case study into curricula for future officers, emphasizing the importance of critical thinking and analytical courage in achieving mission success. Her detailed reports and training materials became required reading for intelligence analysts and tactical planners throughout the military. Colonel Morrison, who had witnessed Kim's transformation from dismissed junior officer to respected analyst, reflected on the broader implications during a staff meeting with senior leadership. The lesson isn't just about better analytical techniques. It's about recognizing and encouraging intellectual courage, even when it challenges established thinking. The institutional changes that followed Kim's success represented a fundamental shift in how military organizations approached analytical development and intellectual dissent. Traditional military culture emphasized conformity and adherence to established procedures, but Kim's example demonstrated the value of encouraging innovative thinking regardless of rank or experience. We almost lost a valuable perspective because we confused experience with wisdom, Major Wells acknowledged during a discussion about analytical training improvements. Lieutenant Kim's age and rank made it easy to dismiss insights that proved more accurate than our conventional assessments. The conversation reflected growing awareness that military effectiveness depended on encouraging analytical excellence at all levels of service, not just among senior officers with extensive experience. Kim's success challenged assumptions about which personnel produced valuable insights and which analytical methods deserved serious consideration. Meanwhile, at the U.S. Army Intelligence School, Kim found herself at the center of curriculum development that would influence training programs for years to come. Her practical experience in unconventional threat analysis provided real-world validation for theoretical concepts that students struggled to understand in abstract terms. The difference between academic intelligence analysis and operational intelligence, she explained to a class of advanced students, is that operational intelligence has immediate tactical consequences. When your analysis influences decisions that affect soldiers in combat, academic precision becomes life-and-death accuracy. Her teaching methodology emphasized practical application over theoretical knowledge, using case studies from her own experience to illustrate principles of critical thinking, assumption testing, and pattern recognition. Students learn not just analytical techniques, but the intellectual courage necessary to challenge established thinking. Intelligence analysis is fundamentally about understanding truth rather than confirming expectations, Kim continued during one particularly intensive training session. Your job is providing accurate assessments that enable effective decision-making, regardless of whether those assessments are comfortable or convenient. The distinction between conformist and critical analysis became a central theme in the curriculum Kim helped develop. Students learned that effective intelligence required not just technical competence, but intellectual independence that could challenge conventional wisdom when evidence demanded it. Captain Jennifer Martinez, who supervised Kim's teaching assignments, noted the exceptional quality of her instruction and its impact on student performance. Lieutenant Kim's students consistently demonstrate superior analytical capabilities compared to previous classes. She's teaching them to think independently rather than just follow established procedures. The success of Kim's teaching methods attracted attention from military education specialists who were developing training programs for other specialties. Her emphasis on intellectual courage and critical thinking provided a model that could be adapted for various military occupations requiring innovative problem-solving. The principle applies beyond intelligence analysis, observed Major David Rodriguez, who led professional development programs for the entire intelligence school. Any military specialty can benefit from the kind of critical thinking and intellectual courage that Lieutenant Kim demonstrated. The discussion reflected broader institutional interest in developing military professionals who could think creatively and challenge assumptions rather than simply following established procedures. Kim's example suggested that such capabilities could be developed through proper training and institutional support for intellectual independence. 8 months into her assignment at intelligence school, Kim received news that would test her growing expertise in entirely new circumstances. The Department of Defense was establishing a specialized analysis unit focused on advanced threat assessment in complex operational environments, and her name had been recommended for a leadership position. This assignment would involve developing threat analysis capabilities for special operations forces operating in denied areas, explained Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Davidson during Kim's briefing about the opportunity. You'd be working with our most challenging analytical problems and most demanding operational requirements. Kim considered the implications carefully. The assignment represented both recognition of her expertise and an opportunity to apply her methods in the most demanding circumstances possible. But it also meant leaving the teaching position where she was training the next generation of intelligence analysts. "Ma'am, I'm honored by the opportunity, but I want to ensure my current responsibilities are properly transitioned. The training programs we've developed are just beginning to show their potential impact." Lieutenant Colonel Davidson smiled at Kim's response. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes you valuable for this assignment. You understand that individual success means nothing if it doesn't contribute to broader institutional capability." The conversation continued for over an hour as Davidson explained the scope and requirements of the new position. The specialized unit would work with analytical challenges and operational concepts that pushed the boundaries of current intelligence capabilities, requiring exactly the kind of innovative thinking that Kim had demonstrated throughout her career. "Your experience with unconventional threat analysis and your ability to train others in critical thinking make you an ideal candidate," Davidson explained. "We need someone who can bridge the gap between theoretical analysis and operational effectiveness." Kim accepted the assignment with the understanding that she would complete her current teaching commitments while beginning preparation for the specialized unit. The transition period would allow her to ensure continuity in the training programs while developing the expertise required for her new responsibilities. The announcement of Kim's selection for the specialized unit created significant interest throughout the intelligence community. Her rapid progression from dismissed junior officer to advanced analytical assignments represented a new model for career development that emphasized intellectual capability over traditional advancement criteria. Lieutenant Kim's career trajectory demonstrates that analytical excellence can emerge from any assignment if properly recognized and developed, observed Colonel Robert Chin during a discussion about talent identification. Her success challenges us to look for intellectual potential in places we might not have considered previously. The conversation reflected growing institutional awareness that traditional career management might miss valuable analytical capabilities that developed in unconventional circumstances. Kim's example suggested the need for more flexible approaches to identifying and developing military intellectual talent. As Kim prepared for her transition to the specialized unit, she reflected on the journey that had brought her from dismissed briefing room participant to the forefront of military intelligence innovation. The analytical skills she had developed through independent research and critical thinking had opened opportunities she could never have imagined when senior officers first rolled their eyes at her contributions. "The key insight," she wrote in her final report from intelligence school, "is that military effectiveness depends on individuals who refuse to accept that conventional wisdom is always correct. Analytical excellence emerges when people care enough about accuracy to challenge comfortable assumptions." Her words would be quoted in military leadership development programs for years to come, serving as inspiration for analysts who might be tempted to conform to established thinking rather than pursue accurate assessment regardless of its institutional popularity. The specialized unit that Kim joined represented the cutting edge of military intelligence capability, combining advanced analytical methods with innovative theoretical frameworks to address the most challenging threat assessment requirements. Her assignment involved developing analytical concepts that would influence how special operations forces approached intelligence gathering in hostile environments. "Your background in unconventional threat analysis provides exactly the kind of intellectual foundation we need," explained Colonel Patricia Wells, who commanded the specialized unit. "Too often, analytical methods get established without sufficient consideration of whether they're actually producing accurate assessments." Kim's first assignment involved evaluating analytical frameworks that promised revolutionary improvements in threat prediction capability. Her responsibility was determining whether theoretical advantages would translate into practical operational benefits that could enhance mission effectiveness. "The methods are sophisticated," she reported after comprehensive evaluation, "but they require analysts who understand both the capabilities and limitations. The most advanced analytical techniques are only as effective as the intellectual rigor applied to their implementation." Her assessment led to modifications in both the analytical methods and the training programs for analysts. The specialized unit learned that methodological advancement required corresponding development and intellectual capabilities to achieve maximum effectiveness. Lieutenant Kim's evaluation process has become our standard methodology, Colonel Wells observed during a progress review. She understands that analytical effectiveness results from optimizing the interaction between sophisticated methods and rigorous thinking. The success of Kim's approach to analytical evaluation attracted attention from research and development organizations throughout the military. Her methods for assessing intellectual effectiveness provided a model that could be applied to various analytical systems under development. Months later, as the specialized unit prepared for its first operational deployment, Kim found herself training teams that would use the analytical methods and frameworks she had helped develop. The circular nature of her career, from dismissed analyst to critical thinker to teacher to developer to trainer, reflected the interconnected nature of military intellectual development. Remember, she told the teams during their final training exercise, the most sophisticated analytical methods cannot replace rigorous thinking and intellectual courage. Your techniques provide capabilities, but your judgment determines how effectively those capabilities serve the mission. The deployment would test both the advanced analytical systems and the training methods that Kim had developed. Success would validate her approach to integrating sophisticated methods with intellectual rigor, while failure would require fundamental reassessment of the unit's capabilities. This is the ultimate test, Colonel Wells observed as the teams prepared for deployment. We'll discover whether our combination of advanced methods and enhanced intellectual training produces the analytical advantages we've been seeking. The deployment results exceeded all expectations. The teams successfully predicted and analyzed threats that would have been impossible to address using conventional methods. Their success validated both the analytical development process and the training methodology that Kim had created. The deployment demonstrated that methodological advancement and intellectual development must proceed together. Kim wrote in her comprehensive after-action report, "Neither alone produces maximum effectiveness, but together they create analytical capabilities that surpass what either could achieve independently." Her conclusions influenced military analytical development programs for years to come, establishing principles that guided the integration of advanced methods with intellectual rigor across multiple domains of military intelligence operations. As First Lieutenant Rachel Kim stood before the assembled military leadership at the Pentagon, receiving recognition for her transformative contributions to military intelligence analysis, she reflected on the journey that had begun in a briefing room where senior officers rolled their eyes at her contributions. "What you've accomplished," General Foster said during the ceremony, "demonstrates that intellectual excellence can emerge anywhere and influence everything. You've shown that analytical courage and critical thinking can transform institutional capabilities." Kim's response captured the essence of her experience and the lessons it provided for military intelligence. "General, my success resulted from opportunities to think independently and institutional support for intellectual courage. Analytical excellence matters, but it requires organizational commitment to challenging assumptions and pursuing accuracy over conformity." Her story would continue to inspire future generations of military intelligence professionals, demonstrating that every analytical assignment offered opportunities for intellectual contribution and institutional impact. The briefing room where her journey began remained a symbol of the potential that existed in every military intelligence duty for those who refused to accept conventional wisdom as sufficient. First Lieutenant Rachel Kim had proved that intellectual courage and analytical excellence could transform any assignment into an opportunity for extraordinary service. Her legacy would live on in the training programs she developed, the analysts she inspired, and the fundamental understanding that military effectiveness depended on individuals who approached every responsibility with unwavering commitment to accuracy and the courage to challenge assumptions when evidence demanded it. The success of the specialized unit's operational deployment created unprecedented demand for similar analytical capabilities throughout the military intelligence community. Kim found herself at the center of expansion efforts that would scale her methods across multiple theaters of operation and various types of complex analytical challenges. "What we've accomplished here needs to be replicated wherever our forces operate in sophisticated threat environments," observed General Foster during a comprehensive briefing about the unit's remarkable success. Lieutenant Kim's approach to combining rigorous analysis with intellectual courage provides a model that could revolutionize our intelligence capabilities across all domains of operation. The expansion process required Kim to develop training programs and analytical procedures that could be implemented by personnel who lacked her specific background and experience in unconventional threat assessment. The challenge was maintaining the effectiveness of her methods while making them accessible to analysts with different educational backgrounds and analytical training. The fundamental principles can be systematically taught, she explained during intensive planning sessions for the expansion program. But success requires comprehensive institutional commitment to developing critical thinking and intellectual independence at all levels of military service. Her observation reflected the broader challenge of implementing innovative analytical approaches within traditional military structures that often prioritize conformity over creativity. Individual analytical excellence could demonstrate new possibilities, but institutional change required systematic modification of training curricula, evaluation procedures, and career advancement criteria. Colonel Wells, who had observed Kim's remarkable development from specialized unit member to program developer and institutional change agent, noted the significant evolution in her understanding of organizational transformation. Lieutenant Kim has learned that individual analytical success is just the beginning of meaningful change. Creating lasting institutional impact requires fundamentally changing how military organizations think about intellectual capability development and analytical innovation. The conversation took place during comprehensive preparation for Kim's next assignment, leading the development of advanced intelligence training programs that would be implemented throughout the entire military intelligence community. Her progression from dismissed briefing room participant to institutional change agent represented a transformation that challenged traditional assumptions about career development and intellectual recognition. Your unique experience provides invaluable perspective on how analytical excellence develops and how it can be systematically institutionalized, Colonel Wells continued. You've experienced both the individual challenges of intellectual courage and the institutional barriers to analytical innovation. Kim's expanded assignment involved extensive collaboration with senior military educators, policymakers, and operational commanders to develop comprehensive training programs that would enhance critical thinking and analytical independence throughout the intelligence community. Her responsibility was ensuring that the lessons learned from her own experience could benefit thousands of current and future military analysts. The ultimate goal isn't just producing better intelligence analysis, she explained during initial planning meetings with senior leadership. The goal is developing military professionals who approach every analytical assignment with the kind of intellectual rigor and courage that can transform routine assessments into critical operational advantages. Her vision reflected deep understanding that military effectiveness depended not just on advanced technology or sophisticated procedures, but on individuals who cared deeply about analytical accuracy and consistently sought truth regardless of institutional pressure or career considerations. The comprehensive training program development process required over 18 months to complete, involving extensive collaboration with military educators, operational commanders, technology specialists, and academic researchers. Kim's central role was ensuring that theoretical concepts remained firmly grounded in practical operational requirements and real-world analytical challenges. Academic understanding is certainly important, she told her diverse development team during one particularly intensive working session. But operational effectiveness is what ultimately matters for military success. Every training concept must be rigorously validated against authentic operational requirements and realistic analytical constraints. Her insistence on practical validation led to training programs that emphasized experiential learning, case study analysis, and scenario-based exercises rather than theoretical instruction disconnected from operational reality. Students learned by working through complex scenarios based on actual intelligence challenges rather than simplified hypothetical situations. The fundamental difference between academic knowledge and operational analytical competence, Kim explained to military educators who questioned her unconventional methodology, is that operational competence requires intellectual judgment that can only be developed through extensive practice with realistic scenarios under time pressure and uncertainty. The training programs that emerged from this intensive development process received widespread implementation throughout the military intelligence community and related analytical specialties. Initial assessment results suggested significant improvements in analytical capability, critical thinking skills, and intellectual independence among program graduates. Major Martinez, who had supervised Kim's earlier teaching assignments at intelligence school, observed the implementation process with considerable satisfaction. Lieutenant Kim's programs are producing exactly the kind of analytical thinking and intellectual courage that our forces need in increasingly complex operational environments worldwide. The documented success of the enhanced training programs led to recognition that extended far beyond the intelligence community. Other military specialties began requesting similar programs that could develop innovative thinking, critical analysis, and intellectual independence in their personnel across various operational domains. What Lieutenant Kim developed for intelligence analysis has potentially transformative applications throughout the entire military establishment, observed Brigadier General Foster during a comprehensive review of professional development programs across all military specialties. The principles of critical thinking and intellectual courage apply to virtually any military field requiring complex problem-solving and innovative approaches. This recognition led to Kim's selection for promotion to captain and assignment to develop comprehensive professional excellence programs for multiple military specialties beyond intelligence analysis. Her expanding responsibilities reflected institutional understanding that her expertise in developing intellectual capabilities had applications throughout military professional development. Your demonstrated success in developing analytical excellence indicates principles that can enhance effectiveness in virtually any military field requiring critical thinking, explained Major General Patricia Collins during Kim's briefing for the significantly expanded assignment. We need you to develop training approaches that can cultivate intellectual excellence wherever it's needed throughout military operations. The challenging new assignment represented both extraordinary opportunity and substantial responsibility. Kim would need to adapt her proven methods for military specialties she had never studied in detail while maintaining the effectiveness that had made her program successful in intelligence applications. The fundamental principles remain universally applicable, she explained during initial meetings with specialists from various military fields ranging from logistics to communications to medical services. Critical thinking, intellectual courage, and analytical rigor enhance effectiveness regardless of the specific assignment, specialty, or operational domain. Her confidence was based on understanding that the methods she had developed emphasized general intellectual capabilities, critical thinking, pattern recognition, assumption testing, intellectual independence, rather than specialty-specific technical knowledge. These fundamental capabilities could enhance performance in virtually any military field requiring complex analysis and innovative problem-solving. The extensive program development process required Kim to conduct detailed studies of various military specialties and understand how her methods could be appropriately adapted for different operational requirements and professional contexts. She worked intensively with subject matter experts from fields ranging from logistics and supply chain management to communications network administration to emergency medical services. Each specialty certainly has unique technical requirements and operational constraints, she observed during regular progress reviews with senior leadership. But all military fields benefit significantly from personnel who approach their responsibilities with systematic critical thinking and unwavering commitment to professional excellence. The specialized programs that emerged from this comprehensive development effort maintained Kim's proven emphasis on practical application and experiential learning while addressing the specific challenges and opportunities of different military fields. Logistics specialists learned enhanced analytical methods for optimizing complex supply chains under uncertain conditions, while communications experts developed improved problem-solving approaches for network management in contested environments. The remarkable strength of Captain Kim's innovative approach, noted Colonel Martinez, who supervised the multi-specialty program development effort, is that it enhances existing professional expertise rather than replacing established technical competence. Military specialists become significantly more effective at what they already do well through improved thinking processes. The successful implementation of professional excellence programs across multiple military specialties represented the culmination of Kim's extraordinary journey from individual analytical performer to institutional change agent with military-wide influence. Her proven methods were now systematically influencing how the military developed intellectual capabilities across its entire range of specialized operations. What began with one junior officer's intellectual courage and refusal to accept conventional analytical limitations has evolved into a systematic approach to developing excellence throughout the entire military establishment, observed General Foster during a ceremony recognizing Kim's transformative contributions. Captain Kim's institutional impact extends far beyond her individual analytical achievements to fundamental improvements in military intellectual development. The ceremony took place at the Pentagon, with attendance by senior leaders from across all military services who had been influenced by Kim's innovative work in developing critical thinking and analytical excellence. Her progression from dismissed briefing room participant to the highest levels of military professional development represented a transformation that inspired military professionals throughout all services. Your remarkable example demonstrates that intellectual excellence can emerge anywhere and potentially influence everything, General Foster said during his formal remarks. You've conclusively shown that individual commitment to analytical accuracy and intellectual courage can fundamentally transform institutional capabilities across all domains of military operations. Kim's response reflected the deep understanding she had developed about the complex relationship between individual intellectual performance and broader institutional effectiveness. General, my success resulted from opportunities to think independently and consistent institutional support for intellectual innovation and analytical courage. Individual excellence certainly matters, but it requires sustained organizational commitment to reach its full, transformative potential. Her carefully chosen words captured the essential lesson of her experience and the critical insights it provided for military professional development at all levels. Excellence required both individual intellectual commitment and institutional support for innovative thinking, and neither alone could achieve maximum effectiveness for military operations. As Captain Rachel Kim accepted her new assignment to lead professional development programs at the highest levels of military education and institutional transformation, she reflected thoughtfully on the remarkable journey that had brought her from a simple briefing room where senior officers dismissed her contributions to the center of military-wide efforts to enhance intellectual capabilities and analytical excellence. The most important lesson, she wrote in her comprehensive final reflection, is that military service provides unlimited opportunities for intellectual contribution for those who approach their analytical responsibilities with unwavering commitment to accuracy and willingness to challenge conventional thinking when evidence demands it. Every assignment, every analysis, every briefing offers possibilities for meaningful contribution and professional growth that can influence institutional effectiveness. Her profound words would be studied extensively by future generations of military professionals who sought to understand how individual intellectual excellence could influence broad institutional capability and operational effectiveness. The briefing room where her journey began remained a powerful symbol of the potential that existed in every military analytical assignment for those who refused to accept conventional wisdom as sufficient when evidence suggested alternative conclusions. Captain Rachel Kim's inspiring story demonstrated that intellectual courage and analytical excellence could transform any military assignment into an opportunity for extraordinary service and lasting institutional impact. Her enduring legacy would live on in the thousands of military professionals who learned from her innovative programs, the institutions that implemented her proven methods, and the fundamental understanding that military effectiveness depended on individuals who approached every analytical responsibility with unwavering commitment to accuracy and the moral courage to speak truth regardless of institutional pressure or personal career considerations.